Hello, I'm Paula Cunningham, State Director of AARP. Thank you for joining us for the second episode of Real Possibilities. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and that's financial freedom. Everybody wants financial freedom. And to talk about that today, we have some experts, well, I consider them experts, content experts who are going to share their wisdom and their thoughts with you. What's financial freedom? Stay tuned and you'll find out. So first, Rob Fowler, welcome. We're glad that you're here today.
I am Rob Fowler. I'm President and CEO of the Small Business Association of Michigan. We are a 25,000 member organization, so small businesses are our members. And one of the things we do for our members is to take their buying power and get them a deal they couldn't get on their own. So I think that's something that we can apply to today's subject as we go along. So look forward to talking about it.
Thanks for being here, Rob, and we look forward to hearing some good things from SBAM throughout the coming years, so thank you. Chris
Holman. I am the CEO of the Michigan Business Network, which is a communication tool for businesses throughout the state of Michigan, and I wear several different hats, but certainly one of them that I wear most proudly is as president of AARP Michigan.
And I'm glad that you're state president for us, and look forward to continuing that joint venture that we have of making lives better for so many seniors throughout the state of Michigan. Thanks for being here, Chris. Eric.
My name's Eric Schneiderwin, and I'm National President of AARP. We have offices in all 50 states, one of which is ably headed by Paula Cunningham, and we have a total of 38 million members.
National President, so you're traveling all over the country all the time.
Quite a bit of the time, but it's a pleasure because I meet a lot of really great people.
Well, we really appreciate you taking time to be with us today. Thank you, Eric.
It's a pleasure.
And Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Dedden-Cooper, and I'm AARP Michigan's Manager of Advocacy. And in my role, I manage a team of staff and AARP volunteers that work on federal and state advocacy.
Fantastic, and Lisa does a fantastic job for AARP. So we're talking about financial freedom. What does that mean exactly? You know, we talked Social Security. Again, we've talked about the trend for people working past retirement age. And we're also talking about work and jobs. You know, people are working safe. People are living longer, so they need more opportunity to save. And you hear a lot of talk lately about Social Security and what's going to happen to Social Security, particularly by the year 2034. So who wants to take that? And tell us a little bit about Social Security and the importance of Social Security as we talk about financial freedom for seniors. Eric, you have?
I sure do. Social Security is probably the issue of greatest concern for our retirees, and it's really no wonder. Without Social Security benefits, about 48% of the people age 65 and above would literally be in poverty. For a third of our members on retirement, without Social Security, they would be in the poverty level and they are living below poverty.
A third?
A third. 1/3 of the people. So Social Security is critically important, and I think it gets to something that all people as they age have on their mind. It's independence, but it's independence so that they can live their best life, and also independence so that they are not a burden on their children.
Absolutely.
Those two things are hugely important, and Social Security addresses both of those needs.
People don't realize they've paid into it, right? I mean, it's money that they've paid into, so money that they have coming back to them.
Absolutely. It's a contract that's between people, and actually 170 million who are paying in, 60 million at any given time who are receiving benefits. And they have been guaranteed not only payments, but payments that adjust as inflation occurs over time. So this is one of the very few programs that offers you, if you will, a defined benefit that you can count on, and a benefit that will not be adversely impacted by inflation. So it's a wonderful program, very popular with the American people.
And people don't realize, I don't think, the impact that Social Security has on our economy. You know, that money goes back into the economy to help stimulate growth. And you know a lot about the economy and Michigan's economy. I think you just completed an economic study for the state of Michigan.
Future Business Index.
Yes, Future Business Index.
You know, it's kind of interesting because to understand the impact of the economy, you have to understand what Social Security does and how it plays into our economy. And you're talking about cash turning over and availability of spendable cash by virtue of us staying alive. We purchase goods, and that keeps the economy going forward. Michigan residents receive more than $30 billion a year. $30 billion.
That's a B.
A year in Social Security, and that generates
Michigan, just Michigan.
Just Michigan, and that generates $55 billion a year in economic impact. So there's a turnover on that, like $1.93, I think, per dollar that's spent here. So it would have a tremendous impact. You know, more than 2 million Michiganders. That's 20% of our population receive Social Security benefits, and so if those benefits were diminished or pulled back, you can see economically how that would really affect the cycle. I mean, and you go on before that, you know, Eric alluded to the number of people who would be below the poverty level without Social Security. It's a staggering number. I mean, it is really huge. On the average, I think it's a little over $1,100 a month that Social Security gives to all recipients in the state of Michigan. So big
That's
impact.
significant. It can
Big
change
dollar
the,
impact.
it can change the quality of life for someone. I mean, that's significant. And Rob, you're representing 25,000 businesses throughout the state of Michigan. Someone could say, well, Social Security simply isn't enough. So why aren't people saving more? You know, why aren't there opportunities for people to save? Because we know we can't live off, a lot of folks just simply can't live off of Social Security alone. So there's this trend now to talk about working and saving and trying to get people to save more money earlier on. Talk to us a little bit about why more businesses aren't offering that.
Well, I think, you know, the traditional vehicle is a 401k, and 401ks are, unfortunately, they're costly and complex. And I think those are the main things that keep a lot of small businesses from setting up a 401k plan in the first place. And you know, I think it's one of the things we're trying to get at, both as an association, but there may be some relief on the horizon from both the Congress and maybe even our state legislature that I think would help. You know, there's liability to offering a 401k plan. There is complexity. Most people who go into business to make their product or to perform their service, and the things that are kind of in the background that are costly and complex and maybe cause them some liability if they mess it up. Those are the things that keep companies from installing 401k plans. The other side of that is, I think with a tightening labor market today, in order to attract and retain good employees, it's part of the package. And I think a lot of small businesses are trying to figure out how to be in this game of providing retirement plans for their employees to be able to compete with large companies who do the same.
We have learned a lot about work and save programs and what's successful and how we get people involved. And I know that there's some studies that have been done, and Lisa, you can chat about this if you will, that if people are automatically put into the program, they're more apt to stay in it. But if they have to opt into a program, then they don't always do that. So being able to offer a program and have employees automatically enrolled in that program, it helps. But talk about what that this does to Michigan workers in our economy. What does a work and save program, how does that impact our economy?
Well, you know, first of all, a work and save plan, that's, you know, what is that, right? So a work and save plan is a way to make it easier for businesses to offer their employees a workplace savings plan. Because as you mentioned, when workers have an opportunity to save at work through a payroll deduction, 7 out of 10 people will take that opportunity. But like Chris mentioned, if people don't have a way to save through a payroll deduction, through a plan at work, people don't go out and do that. You don't go out and find and sign up for and contribute money to an IRA. Like Chris said, 5%, only 5%. But it's not really that surprising because it's confusing, it takes time, you have all kinds of priorities, things that seem more pressing in life than to go out and do that. So we know that it works when more people have access to save through work. And we know that right now in Michigan, almost half of our workers in the private sector don't have access to a workplace savings plan. And if you work for a small business, you're even less likely to have access to a workplace savings plan.
And so if we do nothing, if no one does anything, okay, there's no push for work and save, we don't hire older workers, and we just keep going along the course that we're going, what's going to happen?
Well, we already know that even as it is, 20% of the people who are ages 55 to 64 don't have any retirement savings. And of the people who do currently have retirement savings, a lot of them don't have enough to last their expected lifetime. One of the impacts of that is for the individual and their families, of course. But one of the other impacts, and that's what makes this a public policy issue and not just a personal issue, one of the other impacts is the negative effect on the state and local economies when people retire without enough to live on. There's a study I read recently that looked at Utah's, the cost of retiring poor. And we can see from that study and similar ones that it makes a difference for everybody when people don't have enough to live on retirement, because the cost to the social safety net programs increase as a result of that. So the cost to the state and the cost of taxpayers through Medicaid and food assistance and things like that will go up. So it makes sense for everybody, for individuals now, for individuals for their own futures, and for our economy in Michigan. When people save now, it's going to help everybody later.
Eric, there are people who are probably listening to this program who can identify with exactly what we're saying, what we're talking about. What would you say to them? What is AARP doing to help move this forward, move the financial freedom issue forward? What's going on?
There are several initiatives we are taking. First of all, we want to make Social Security secure and available for all future generations. We know that if we don't do anything, Social Security is going to run short of money about 2034 and only be able to pay roughly 80% of the promised benefits. So we need to get going now to try to fix that, to try to adequately fund Social Security. And just like saving for retirement, if you start early, you have to save a little bit each year, each month, in order to meet your goals. But if you wait to the last moment to try to close the gap, it's a huge amount of money each year. So we think we've got to go forward. The second thing with AARP is the program that Lisa talked about. We want to encourage people whenever they can, as easily as they can, to start saving money and have adequate savings in the bank account when they retire. We also know that some people will find that even these two other options don't give them enough money, or frankly, there are other reasons for wanting to keep working, like the social aspects. So we want to make available work opportunities for older Americans, try to tackle issues that maybe there's age discrimination, maybe employers need to be made aware of some of the upside of hiring older workers and the benefits they bring to the workplace. So that's kind of a three-legged stool where you've got savings, you've got Social Security, and you're supplementing what you have through additional work. And AARP is trying to push along all three options.
That's why we love AARP. Rob, we talk about jobs. Chris, when we talk about jobs, 100,000 jobs unfilled in the state of Michigan. Employers, you hear all the time, having challenges trying to find employees. What about the older worker? Are employers interested in hiring an older worker? I mean, I won't tell you all the benefits, but I'll let you tell us.
Well, I think absolutely. And I agree. What I hear from our members today, whenever we ask what's keeping you up at night, it's talent. It is finding and attracting and retaining good talent. And so to the question, I think absolutely they're looking for older people who've got experience, who have figured out what's successful in the workplace through their own careers, and can model it and can mentor it to younger employees, I think they add tremendously, sort of as a group, to workplace culture. So absolutely, that's a kind of a sweet spot. And I think while it may not be traditional, I think Michigan employers today are looking in lots of non-traditional places for good talent. And so I think it's a really good time to be having this conversation about those who may want to work beyond. And I think flexible and part-time are part of the calculus today in a way that maybe weren't, 10 years ago.
And so as we talk about financial freedom, there's some long-term strategies that I'm hearing, but there are also some short-term strategies, and that's putting some of these older workers back into the workplace who might need some assistance right now.
What we're talking about is an opportunity for businesses and an opportunity for individuals and an opportunity really for society in response to these changing demographics. In the 20th century, 30 years have been added to the expected lifespan. And one of the things that we are seeing is that it's not an additional 30 years of extended old age, but it's more an additional 30 years of an extended middle age, where people are at their most productive and where they have the opportunity to be more creative and use their years of experience. And we do have today people like you mentioned, Paula, particularly in that our older adults today tend to be more educated than generations past. We have people who want to work longer and try new things during this new part of their life.
Absolutely. And someone mentioned, I was sharing with you before the program started that my aunt's 88 years old. She bowls twice a week. She flew up from Los Angeles to Michigan all on her own. She drives. And at the age now, I think that people are living to 85 years. The fastest growing segment of our population is 85-year-olds.
I think that's right. And it's interesting that compared to when I was a kid, when you got into your 60s or 70s, you were starting to decline. But now, in effect, we have added at least 10 years of middle age to a lot of people's lives. Now, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that for somebody in a hard physical occupation or maybe with health issues, that may not be true. But for a lot of people, it is true. Well, that creates both a problem and an opportunity. The problem is you are more likely to outrun savings or other financial assets that you have because you have 10 more years of life.
And with 38 million members that you can survey, you know what their concerns are.
Exactly.
You know exactly what the needs are. So this isn't something that the five of us just sit here and
No, we
create.
have a lot of research that is pointing in that direction and has led us to emphasize these programs because they really respond to a large need. And frankly, this is an area where there are benefits to all Americans because if the older population is productive, if they're happy, and if they're self-sufficient, that's good for everybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. So as you talk about financial freedom, there are probably still some people out there thinking, but that's not my responsibility.
Well, I think part of what's going on here, and we've alluded to it a couple times, is today's workplace is there's a talent shortage, and I think as we look at kind of non-traditional ways to fill those talent gaps, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for people to work longer, more flexibly. So I think in part it's that, but when I hear the numbers we just talked about in terms of the impact on the economy, we're very much a consumer-driven economy, and so people living longer, having the financial means to take care of themselves, and spend, really does drive the economy, and that's a lifting all boats kind of scenario. And I think it really is sort of self-fulfilling when people have the opportunity to live longer, work longer, save more, spend more. It lifts the economy as well, and I think that creates more opportunities for flexible and creative ways to work.
Well, and the reason that it's so important is because the cost falls on someone.
Right.
And who is that someone? That someone is us, folks, you know, and small business bears a lot of that, and so does the general, you know, population because of tax increases they'll have to make. So in this case, when you have non-productive, older population, it's very much like the dropout rate in high schools. So those kids don't go on to success. So they get on social benefits, and who pays for that? Right? So the impact is even greater. It's exponential. If they're not productive, then they're a cost.
Absolutely.
I don't want to be a cost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Either pay now or pay later.
That's right. That's exactly right.
One of the other impacts, too, that we see is older adults tend to spend a larger proportion of their income on services, goods and services that are produced and provided locally. So when older adults don't have the money in their pocket to spend, then we see the ripple effect of the negative impact in our state and local economies more strongly than we do with other demographic, other age groups.
It's like that multiplier that Chris talked about. Is, you know, you get $1 of Social Security, it has almost $2 of impact on the economy. But the same thing's true of seniors earning money at jobs, and then they're going to spend it. So all these things produce a vital, prospering economy. So it's in all our interests.
Absolutely. And tell us, where do you think we're going to be in terms of work and save, Social Security, and also seniors working past their traditional age 5 years from now? What should we expect 5 years from now in terms of these issues? We're really talking about financial freedom. And you know, I don't care what else goes on in your life. If your finances aren't right, you've got stress, you've got issues, you've got healthcare issues, you've got a ton of other things going on. So thank goodness we've got AARP, who's looking to the future, looking now. Thank goodness we've got SBAM, who's working with us, and Chris Holman, who's a business person, and Lisa in advocacy, to look at these issues in a holistic approach to what can we do about it. But 5 years from now, 3 years from now, what do you think we'll be with these issues? What's going on in our economy, in our community? Do you think we'll have more employers will be offering work and save? Do you think that older workers will still be in the workplace? Do you think that there'll be some kind of legislative agenda, or what are you thinking?
Right now, we really are in a state of change. We've got change coming in so many directions. One area that I think we need to look at, and that AARP will be very much engaged in over the next 5 years, is the future of Social Security. In the elections, AARP has been talking about and trying to get our elected officials in Washington to focus more on the future of Social Security. And we're going to really need to, I guess, what's the good analogy? You know, pedal to the metal? No, that's not it. No, metal.
Stay focused. Stay focused.
All hands on deck. That's it. To make sure that Social Security is going to be there for people who are retiring now, but also people who are retiring in 10 years.
Yeah, because 2034 is right around the corner.
It is. You know, I think, though, something that Rob was saying really might tie it together, and that is that because of the baby boom population, that group is both large, it's dominant, but now it's starting to retire. And that is creating pressure certainly on our retirement systems like Social Security, but because we're living longer, we do have the ability to work. Now, businesses, I think, are going to be driving a lot of this because they lose their older workers. They're going to be very anxious to retain them or train them. That's a commonality of interest. I think everybody's going to recognize that work and save helps all sectors, government, business, individuals. I expect a lot of support for that, and Rob's presence here is evidence, and so is Chris. He's a businessman, he knows that. So coming together to, frankly, tackle the problems that are being driven by the aging of the boomers, I think is a unifying theme. And the areas where there's certainly identity of interest would be, let's help people save more readily. If they want to work, let's help them continue to work. And if they really depend, as they do, on Social Security so greatly, let's get that program shorn up and let's start that effort at a time when the adjustments can be minimal, as opposed to really, having to raise a great deal of money on a short-term basis.
Do you think there's support in Washington for doing that?
I think there is. I think certainly the easiest programs to achieve will be the work and save type of programs to let people keep going in the workplace. The effort to allow older people to continue working, to explain the benefits, I think that's a win-win with the shortage of workers. Social Security is going to take some education for people to understand the critical nature and the benefits of starting early.
Yeah.
Well, a woman turning age 65 today is expected to live another 21 years. That's a big increase.
It certainly is.
Compared to when the program Social Security
Absolutely.
What a change.
began.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So something has to be done.
Right.
Something has to be done. Rob?
Well, I think looking through a kind of an employer lens, tight life, if we don't have this conversation when the unemployment rate is high, what can we do to attract and retain people? It's more of a buyer's market when the unemployment. So assuming that the market stays this way in the next few years, I think we're going to have a real conversation about. See, the irony is I hear employers say there's wage inflation and there's benefit inflation, meaning they have to provide health insurance. And I believe they're going to have to provide retirement as well. And that, I think, compels all of us to figure out a way to make it cheaper and less complex. The Congress is looking at a couple ways to do that, a multiple employer kind of a arrangement where you could pool the costs and pool the fiduciary responsibility. So I think there's a really good chance that the Congress will do something about this that I think will be helpful. I don't usually say the Congress will do something and it will be helpful, but in this case, I think there's a chance, and I think the demand is there, and that's a pretty good confluence of trends that I think bodes well for this conversation about. The reality is when we talk about half the people don't have an opportunity to save via payroll in their workplace, the half who don't mostly work for small business. I mean, the truth is almost all very large companies provide some kind of retirement savings program. So most of that is really in the small, and we have got to figure it out among small businesses. They need it to be able to compete for those very employees with large companies. So the time is right for us to have this conversation, and I think all the compelling, reasons are in place right now.
It just popped into my head that retiree group coming back part-time is also very cost-effective because they don't need a lot of the benefits that younger people coming out
Exactly.
need.
And there is training available for that group coming back if they want some additional training, but they have some background and they have some knowledge of whatever the content area is. And so the training is they don't need as much training as perhaps others do. Right. What a fantastic panel. Thank you. With the five of us, I just feel like we're ready to go. We're going to fix this. We're going to make this work.
Well, we're going to need a few more than 5.
We owe it all to our chair.
Yeah, right. I don't know about that, but one thing that I do know is that AARP is looking out for your interest, the interest of those who are 50 and older in the communities in which they live. We want to make certain that there's financial freedom available for people of all ages, and that starts with each of us doing what we can to make a difference. Thank you for joining us, Rob Fowler, Chris Holman, Eric Schneiderwin, and Lisa Cooper. And thank you, our audience, for joining us as well to the second episode of AARP Real Possibilities. Thank you very much.